Welcome to this wiring planner tutorial. In this tutorial, I will guide you through the process of creating a project with a couple of schematic diagrams. This is a library that we provide with Wiring Planner, and it includes a number of different component types that we'll be using in this project. To start off, I'm going to create a project. You can do that by clicking this icon, folder with a plus, or clicking the File menu, New, and then select Project. I'll give this project a name, Avionics Installation Tutorial. And then click Save. Now when I expand it, I've got an empty project. I'll right-click on the folder, click Add Diagram, and then give the diagram a name and select a sheet size. And then click OK. Double-click on the diagram to open it, and you have a blank diagram. I want to start with a GTN 750 Navcom. So I'll type GTN 750 in the search bar, and it locates it in the library. I can double-click on the search result to jump to the library and then drag it from the library onto my diagram. And once I do that, it creates an instance of that device in my library. The name Dev1 is applied automatically. I can rename it from Dev1 to anything that I want. I'll name it Navcom1. If I expand Navcom1, I see all the connectors that are defined by the library component. I can select any of these connectors and drag them onto my diagram. For this diagram, I want J1003 and 1004. So if I select them and drag them onto the diagram, I can drop them anywhere on the diagram that I want, but they will appear in the Navcom1 black box. Now I want to add a secondary Navcom. I'm going to select a GTN 650 for my secondary. So I'll go back to the library and locate the GTN 650. And then I'll click it, but instead of dragging it onto the diagram, I'm going to expand it and drag its connectors onto the diagram. And when I do that, the Navcom appears with the connectors inside that I selected. I'll rename this device Navcom2. Next, I need an audio panel, so I'm going to search for a GMA35. Search results show it here. I'll double click, that jumps me to the library. If I expand the GMA35, all I need is J3501, so I'll drag it onto the diagram and the black box appears. I'm going to rename the GMA35 audio panel. In order to connect our cabling to these black boxes, we need a mating connector. So I've selected J1003, and down here in the Properties panel you can see that it is of family Garmin D-Sub high density. A subfolder in the Garmin folder called Connectors, and there's a 44-pin plug, and if I bring it into proximity of J1003 I get a green rectangle which indicates that it's a valid mate. And when I drop it, it snaps into position. It also creates an instance of the connector in my model. I need another one for the audio panel, which is the same pin count, and a third one for Navcom2. And notice when I drop them, they're automatically given IDs P1, P2, and P3. Now the next connector is a 62-pin connector. Grab that from the library and drop it. And I need another one for Navcom2. In order to connect our wires, we're going to have to show contacts, individual contacts in the connector. So to do that, I'll select the first connector, right-click, and select Hide Show Contacts. This gives me a table showing all of the contacts of that connector, as well as any labels assigned to them. And I can simply check the contacts that I want to display. I'll do the same for J1003 of Navcom 2. I can expose the contacts on either connector of a mated pair, and when I expose the contacts on one mate, the other one will show the same contacts. Now it's important, in order to connect the contacts, that I line them up to avoid crossing of conductors and to prevent the wiring from becoming a rat's nest of lines. So to do that, I can select each contact and I can then move it into the optimal position. I can also grab the arrow and pull it down in order to add a space. To connect them, I'm going to select a cable from my library. In the Cables and Conductors library, I have a shielded twisted pair. In the properties, I can see that it has a part number assigned as well as a military number. And if I expand the shield, there are two conductors. I can grab the first one and drag it onto the diagram. And when I drop it, my pointer changes. I can then click that pointer to draw the conductor between two contacts. When I lay down the first conductor, it creates an instance of that cable in my model. If I expand that instance, the first conductor that I just laid has a tilde in front of it, indicating that it's been used, but the second one is unused. So I'm going to grab it and make the next connection with it. I can then grab the shield symbol from that cable and place it on the diagram, and then select it, Control C to copy, and Control V to paste, and then move that into position at the other end of the cable. The next cable needs to be a shielded twisted triple. Back to my library, I have ST-3-22. I'll grab the first conductor, drag it onto the diagram, and make my connection. Actually though, the other end of this conductor has to be attached to the wire above it as opposed to a pin. And so to connect to a wire, I need a terminal. And if I expand my terminals folder, there are a number of them in here, but I'm going to select SS4, which is a solder sleeve. I'll drag that onto the diagram and it appears as a heavy dot. In order to attach it to the wire, I need to disconnect the conductor end 2 from the contact and then connect it instead to this terminal. So to do that, I disconnect the wire, put the terminal in place, and connect it. Then I go to the toolbar, select the conductor tool, and connect the terminal to the contact. Now I can click the end of the conductor and click the terminal, and that gives me my connection. The third conductor, same way. Then I'll grab the shield symbol, move it into position, expand it, and then Control C to copy, and Control V to paste. For the next connection, I need another shielded pair. So the best way to add a gap is to select 12 and then pull the arrow down to add a space below 12. Then I'll grab my conductor from the library, make the first connection, expand the instance in the model, and grab the second conductor, and then the shield symbols. Now I need to add a large gap to line things up with Navcom 2. Grab a shielded twisted pair conductor, and my spacing is not quite right, so I will adjust that. But there's a grid offset, so I need to move the black box to meet that grid. Now I'm going to add my terminal that I know I'll need for Navcom 2, so that when I drag my next conductor, I can connect directly to it. Rather than create an instance of the cable that I need from the library, I can also select an existing one in my model and copy it. And when I copy and paste, it appears as cable 5, and I can grab its conductors. I'm going to copy cable 4, and it becomes cable 6. Expand it, drag the first conductor out, and use that for my first connection. Second conductor, second connection. So now I've got 3 cables that don't have the shield symbols. If I drag the first shield symbol, in order to connect the shield symbols, I'll go to the toolbar and click the conductor tool, and then click between the shield symbols to connect them. The diagram is beginning to take shape, but I still need labels on the conductors. If I select a conductor and right-click, go to the Edit Labels menu item, there's a number of labels that I can add. So I'm going to select the ID, which is the color and the gauge of the wire to display. When I do that, it adds the labels. and I can select those labels. But when I select the labels, sometimes it selects other things like that shield. So to prevent that, I can use a filter. Up here at the top, there's a label filter. If I click that, I can then select the labels without getting the shield, and I can move them into position. Some people like to have the label above the conductor. Some people prefer to have them on the conductor. If you want to have them on the conductor, then click the Fill tool and select white and click OK. It can be tedious to do all those one at a time, so let's try a different way. I'll click the other filter, which is a conductor filter, and I can use that to select all the other conductors at once. Now if I right click and edit label, I can select ID and gauge as before and click OK. It instantly labels all of them. Now if I group select the labels, it has selected a couple or several that I don't want to move. So I'll press Control and click those labels to deselect them. And then I can move the other labels into position. Looks like I missed a label up here. The connectors can also have labels, and in the case of the Garmin equipment, we have defined labels for the contacts. If I right click and show label, then it shows those labels. Next, I can select the black box and expand it to include the labels. If I want to add a part number for the cable, I can click one of the conductors and then press Alt-M. M means modeled, so Alt-M will jump from the conductor on the diagram to the conductor in the model. And then I can select the cable that it's a part of, drag it onto the diagram, but before I release it, I'll press Control. And when I do release it, it shows me this menu label, and I can select the menu item that or the label that I want to show and put it into position. I'm going to do the same thing for the triple. Drag the cable onto the diagram, press Control and then drop it. If I want these labels to stand out, I can select them and click the font color and change them to blue or any other color I choose. I'm going to save my project. Next, I'm going to add a second diagram. And we'll call this diagram the PFD, primary flight display, and transponder diagram. And then double click it to open it. On this diagram, I need to show the same navcoms, navcom 1 and navcom 2, and I don't want to pull them from the library because that would create new instances. So all I do is I select the navcom from my model and show it on a different diagram. In other words, you can show a single model element on more than one diagram. For this diagram, we're going to show navcom 1 and navcom 2 with J1001. Now I'll expose the contacts that I need. And I'll do the same for navcom 2. Next, I'll rearrange the contacts. And add gaps. And when that's done, I'm going to add my PFD. For that, I'm going to use an Avionics EXP5000. Drag it onto the diagram with the J2 connector. And if I select that connector, it's a 44-pin connector. I'll add the contacts that I want to view on that diagram. Rearrange the contacts and add spaces. And then the transponder, GTX33. By using the search bar, it's very easy to find what I need in the library. That's a 78-pin connector, J1001. So I grab it from the library, and same thing, except this time I'll just copy it within my project and paste it. This one was a 44 contact connector. I'm going to copy the 44. And I'll add that the IDs that are automatically generated, a P followed by a digit, you can change them to whatever you want. You can change the number, you can change the letter. To start connecting, I need a shielded twisted pair, and then grab the first conductor, second conductor. I'll make a couple more copies of the twisted pair and use those copies Next, I need a triple, so I'll make a copy of that. And that actually connects to the transponder. My conductors from 48 and 67 of Navcom 2 need to connect to 48 and 67 of Navcom 1. So I need more of my terminals, my solder sleeves. Right now I've just placed them on the conductor, but they're not actually attached. And you noticed that the conductor was routed poorly, so I just select it and press Control R, and that reroutes it automatically. I'm going to use a fill to make that label more visible. Next, I need another shielded pair to go between Navcom 2 and the EXP5000. But unfortunately, the wires are overlaying each other, which is not a good thing. Makes it difficult to read. So I'll just increase the gap. Now I'll bring my shields onto the diagram. I'll use the conductor tool from the toolbar to connect my shield symbols. And then I'll add my labels, choose the label filter, move them onto the wire, and put backfill. And again, fill. These need to be repositioned. Maybe these should go up here. In fact, I don't think I need the gauge. I'll just show the wire color. Next, I'll show the labels for the connectors, and we don't have any defined for the EXP5000. Expand the black boxes to include the labels. And then the diagram is complete. You can add any other finishing touches you like. The fields in the title block are automatically populated with information such as the name of the diagram and the sheet size, but you can always change information such as the date and the revision number. I hope this tutorial has been helpful for you. Please check out our other tutorials on our YouTube channel. You'll find tutorials for creating black boxes, for modeling cables and conductors, and for creating bills of material and many other things. Thank you.